The Championship relegation battle is absolutely mental. Hello guys, welcome back to yet another video. Today we are going to be discussing which three teams might potentially be going down from the Championship to League One at the end of this season. There's just 8 games to go for each of these teams in the bottom half of the Championship, and there is a lot to play for, with so many teams involved fighting for their lives. Before we get into today's video then guys, and break down some of the numbers and things to look out for in the Championship relegation battle, if you're feeling brave, share your predictions down in the comments. Which three teams do you think will be going down from the Championship to League One at the end of this season, and how many points do you think it will take to survive the drop? While you are there guys, make sure to show this video some support. Let's go for 1,000 likes. It's free to hit the like button, so make sure to do so. We do Championship videos regularly and we've got lots of content to come even during the international break. Also make sure you are subscribed. As you can see, we are so close to 60,000 subscribers. It's free to subscribe, so get involved to get your EFL Championship fix. And with all of that said, let's get in to the Championship relegation battle. So then, if you've not been keeping up to date with the Championship, then just have a look at the table next to me. It is absolutely bonkers, and I would go as far as to say all of the teams in the bottom half of the table are involved in some way, shape or form. Now yesterday, when we spoke about the Championship promotion race, we spoke about each team and the position they're in and the points they're on, and we colour coordinated them, and we're going to do the same for the Championship here, and this is the colour scheme I have come up with. So just a general observation right now, Rotherham United are done. 20 points, they're 19 points cut adrift with just 8 games to go, and of course if they won all of their 8 games, that only gives them an extra 24 points. So for Rotherham United to stand a chance of survival, they'd have to win all of their 8 games and hope that plenty of teams above them don't pick up any more wins. I just don't see it happening, so I think we can rule Rotherham United out. After that, I've got Sheffield Wednesday, Huddersfield and Birmingham in the same sort of shade of dark yellow orange. It's unbelievably close between these three. Sheffield Wednesday, you can see they're 1 point away from being outside of the bottom 3. You've got Huddersfield and Birmingham locked together on 39 points, separated by 2 goal difference. Just above that, in a slightly lighter yellow, I've got QPR, Stoke and Plymouth, who are all separated by 1 point, and even Plymouth up in 18th are only 2 points above the bottom 3. It's absolutely crazy. In an even lighter yellow, we have Blackburn and Millwall, who are certainly not safe yet either, but just have a couple more points over the likes of Plymouth, Stoke and QPR, and just a tiny bit of breathing space, but don't take that for granted. After that, I've got Swansea and Bristol City in a lime colour. These teams certainly aren't safe yet either, but they are obviously in a much stronger position, and I think that 3-point gap between Millwall and Swansea right now is crucial for the likes of Swansea and Bristol City. And then above that, you've got Watford and Sunderland, who we did also mention in the Championship promotion race yesterday, and pretty much ruled them out of being able to make the playoffs. And right now, although we can't mathematically rule them out of being out of the relegation battle just yet, I don't think they will be involved. Sunderland, Watford, Bristol City, these teams are right in the middle and probably have the least to play for right now out of any team in the Championship. So then, after just looking at where teams are and the points they've got with 8 games to go, what's my early general observations right now on the Championship relegation battle? Well, as I said, Rotherham United, I do think they're done, and then it's really just too close to call from there on in. As I say, I think the 3-point gap between Millwall and Swansea is quite crucial there. It's just a nice enough buffer for Swansea and upwards to think we're probably okay. So then, the next thing we need to look at is form. This is a crucial factor as we head into the final 8 games, and what I thought would be quite good is to look at each team in the bottom half of their Championship and their last 8 games in the Championship form table, and here it is. As you can see, Rotherham United at the bottom of this with just 1 point, Sunderland with 4 points, you've got Plymouth down there with 5 and Blackburn with 6 over the last 8 games. You've then got Watford, and then Birmingham and Huddersfield are sort of neck and neck in the form table. Then it's Stoke, Bristol City, Millwall and QPR. Certainly the most interesting team here from the bottom half of the Championship in the form table is Sheffield Wednesday, because they are currently second bottom but 7th in the form table with 5 wins in their last 8 games. Now, to be honest, for a while I have thought Sheffield Wednesday have a good chance of getting out of this, even when when they were more points adrift. Now yes, Sheffield Wednesday have actually lost their last 2 games, but let's take that with a pinch of salt because it was Leeds United and Ipswich Town. But one thing I will say though with that is losing 6-0 to Ipswich wasn't great for Sheffield Wednesday, and it has done their goal difference even more damage. But as we go back to the actual table right now, it's interesting here with Sheffield Wednesday because someone who's not really been tracking the Championship this season would look at Sheffield Wednesday and say, oh, they are in trouble. And yes, to an extent they are. They're still in the bottom 3, but the form has got them moving in the right direction. And I do feel like with Sheffield Wednesday and QPR, they've been more used to the pressure of being at the bottom end of the table this season. And they've both put good runs together at the right time, which has made this Championship relegation battle so interesting and sucked in the rest. It's the likes of Birmingham City, Huddersfield Town, Blackburn Rovers, Plymouth Argyle, who maybe weren't overly concerned a few weeks ago, who are now starting to look over their shoulders now. So after looking at the form table over the last 8 games of the Championship, let's see what the Championship would look like if each of those teams at the bottom end of the Championship was to do the same in their next 8 games as they did in the last 8 games. And this is the projection for the points they would get. As you can see, Rotherham 21 points as they only add 1 more onto their collection, but Sheffield Wednesday with a whopping 53 points, Huddersfield with 47 and Birmingham with 46, QPR with 52, Stoke with 50, Plymouth with 46, Blackburn with 48, Millwall with 53, and everyone else above Millwall is past 50 points. So with that, the 3 teams that would be going down would be Rotherham, of course, and Birmingham and Plymouth, who would both get 46 points, and it would show that Huddersfield are the team just getting over the line there with 47. Now, does that make me think 47 points is definitely going to be the requirement this season? No. Of course, 47 could be just enough to get over the line, but the next 8 games won't definitely be a reflection of the last 8 games. Form can change, so you've got to take that into consideration. So then, with all of that said and all of the different factors put together, here's the big question. How many points do I think you'll need to just get over the line this season? And when I say just get over the line, I mean by just 1 point. Yes, of course, if we wanted to talk in comfortable terms, we could say, well, each team's got to get to 53 points to be safe. Yes, for me, 53 points would be more than safety, but realistically, do I see the majority of the teams down there getting to about 52, 53 points? No, I don't. So right now, with all of those numbers and the fixtures still to come up for all of these teams down there, I'm going to make an educated guess and say this is probably what you're going to need. Now, definitely don't take my word for gospel. This is not set in stone, but here's my observation. 44 points will not be enough. As you saw, looking at the bottom end of the Championship table, there's only 1 team below a point per game, which is Rotherham, and only 1 team on a point per game, which is Sheffield Wednesday. Everyone else is above a point per game. I also think 45 points is very unlikely to be enough. And also 46 points I think is unlikely too to keep you up. Then when you get to 47 and 48, I think that's where it gets close. I think if you get to 48 points with a good enough goal difference, that might just keep you up. And then when you get to 49 points, I think that's likely to keep you up, and 50 points to me is enough. In my opinion, I think anyone who says 51 points plus is exaggerating. Now, obviously, I could be proved a little bit wrong here, but here is my thinking. There's so many teams involved down here, and these teams are at the bottom end of the Championship for a reason. They don't win many games. With that said, I will obviously give some of the teams credit down here because they have gone on good runs and picked up quite a few points recently. But with the sheer amount of teams down here, I don't think it's that naive and impossible to say at least 2 of them will not go on a good run in the final 8 games. As I said, I could be proven slightly wrong, and I do think it's possible it could be a little bit higher than 48 or a little bit lower than 48 to just get over the line this season, but that's my general observation, making an educated guess after everything we've looked at. As I said at the start of this video, certainly share your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know how many points you think it will take to just get over the line this season, and as I say, that's just getting over the line. I think 49 will be enough, and I think 48 with a good goal difference should be enough. I think if you get to 48 and you go down, you've been a bit unlucky. In previous seasons, of course, it has fluctuated. In a couple of seasons, some teams have got to the high 40s and the low 50s and still gone down, and also in previous seasons, the low 40s has sometimes been enough to stay up. One thing we do need to take into consideration is there's no points deductions this season, so I do think that is a factor for it being slightly higher than the average season. So then, when we go back to the colour coordinated table, it does kind of feed into my argument of putting these teams in these colours. Rotherham as I say, even if they won all of their 8 remaining games, they'd only get to 44 points, which I don't think any of us right now will be enough to stay up, unless, as we said, there's some ridiculous points deductions for loads of teams coming out of nowhere, which is obviously very unlikely. Sunderland and Watford would probably have to lose all of their 8 games to get sucked into this conversation. And one thing we will say when it came to Sunderland's form is it hasn't been great, but I do expect them to at least get one more win in the next 8 games. The same for Bristol City and Swansea. I don't see them flatlining enough to fall into this. But from Millwall down to Sheffield Wednesday, that's where I'd say right now the focus is. And I think it's realistic to say it'll probably be 2 of those 8 between Millwall and Sheffield Wednesday. If we're going to quickly mention these teams before we come on to their fixtures, for Millwall, a few weeks ago I was concerned for them. Neil Harris has come in and they've had a really good bounce. They just need to get another little splurge of points over the line in the next 8 games and I think they'll be okay. As for Blackburn Rovers, they've been a little bit difficult to put your finger on, sleepwalking potentially into trouble, but I do think they might just have enough to get over the line. As for Plymouth Argyle, as we saw, the form isn't great for them. It does feel like with Plymouth Argyle they're potentially hoping the games run out just before they get closer to that bottom 3, because right now they are trending in the wrong direction. As for Stoke City, another difficult one to put your finger on. They have pulled out a couple of decent results recently, but still certainly not safe yet, and that's down to the fact that Sheffield Wednesday and QPR have been picking up the points. Next up are QPR, who are in 20th place. Their performances have been really good, and even though it's no wins in the last 2 or 3 games, I think there's enough there to say they'll get a few more points just to get them over the line, but they're certainly still in the mix. And as for Birmingham City, the form isn't great, and if it wasn't for their track record, I'd be looking at them as one of my 3 teams to go down. But as I say, in so many of the previous championship seasons, they've flirted with danger, but just got over the line. So I feel like that could be the case with Birmingham. But on the other side of that, if you're going to flirt with danger in a lot of championship seasons, you might find one season you've just not got enough to get over the line. And then with Huddersfield, they don't actually lose too many games. As you can see, they've lost the fewest amount of games out of the teams in the bottom 10 there, but drawing games is a little bit of their Achilles heels. They have picked up some decent draws this season, of course. For example, drawing at home to Leeds with 10 men. That was a very spirited performance. And based on the fact they've drawn so many and they're just 1 point above a point per game, you can just see Huddersfield continue to churn out the points per game, which they are, which might potentially mean Huddersfield don't really get sucked into it massively, but also at the same time don't catapult themselves away from it. They need to get their next win somewhere, because draws are only doing so much for now, and right now, as you can see, they're just in the bottom 3. And then as for Sheffield Wednesday, yes, they might be in the bottom 3, yes, they might be second bottom, and yes, they might have a terrible goal difference, but the form is saying Sheffield Wednesday could potentially be on their way out of this. And as you can see, they're just 1 point behind Birmingham, 2 points behind QPR, 3 points behind Stoke and Plymouth. Sheffield Wednesday certainly have a chance of getting out of this. Well, with that said, let's look at their fixtures and the teams we've just mentioned's fixtures as well. With Sheffield Wednesday, they host Swansea, they go away to Middlesbrough and QPR, then it's home games against Norwich and Stoke, before an away game at Blackburn, a home game against the Baggies, and an away game against Sunderland. At the bottom there, I have put what the requirements would be and the easiest way of getting up to the magic 48 points, as I say, which could be enough. If you think it's going to be 49 or 50 points, obviously you need to add on another draw or 2. So I think if Sheffield Wednesday do win 3 of their next 8 games and get a draw on top of that, they could actually be afforded 4 defeats, and that would get them to 48 points. But as I say, with their goal difference not being the greatest, they might need to potentially get to 49 points for them to get out of trouble. There's some big games in there for Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously, they've got 4 home games and 4 away games. I am certainly looking at the QPR away game, the Stoke home game and the Blackburn away game as massive 6-pointers, which if Sheffield Wednesday won any of them, they would really suck those teams in. As for Huddersfield, it's Coventry at home, Stoke away, Millwall at home and Preston away, before Bristol City away, Swansea at home, Birmingham at home and Ipswich away. There certainly is a couple of tricky games in there for Huddersfield, but in their next 8 games, they only play one of the top 6, and with that being Ipswich Town away from home. That feels like it could be an absolutely massive game for both teams. You do feel like Huddersfield want to be above the bottom 3 going into that, and certainly keep your eye on that Birmingham City game, which is Huddersfield Town's last home game of the season. As for Birmingham, it's a big away trip to QPR, and then it's Preston at home, Leicester away, Cardiff and Coventry at home, before, look at this, Rotherham away, Huddersfield away and Norwich at home. Plenty of 6-pointers in there for Birmingham. Obviously QPR and Huddersfield look like the big games. Rotherham has definitely got to be a win there for Birmingham City, and you've also got the likes of Leicester, Coventry, Preston and Norwich, which are all at the top end of the table. So a mixed bag there for Birmingham. I think if they win 3 of their next 8, I think that'd be enough to get them over the line. It would get them to 48 points, and maybe a draw on top of that would get them to 49 and potentially safety then. As for QPR, it's Birmingham City at home, Swansea away, Sheffield Wednesday at home, Plymouth and Hull away, Preston at home, Leeds at home and Coventry away. It does feel like with QPR the games get gradually more difficult. As you can see there, Hull City, Preston, Leeds and Coventry, their last 4 games. QPR's form is pretty good, and if they can win those next 2 home games against Birmingham and Sheffield Wednesday, that will give them some breathing space. I also don't think it's impossible for QPR to go and get something at Swansea on the road or Plymouth Argyle on the road. Some massive games there for QPR. I reckon with 2 wins, 2 draws and even 4 defeats, getting them to 48 points, that might just be enough for QPR to stay up this season. On to the next 4 teams then, and Stoke City go away to Hull City. They then host Huddersfield and West Brom before away trips to Swansea and Sheffield Wednesday, a home game against Plymouth, an away trip to St Mary's, Southampton and a home game against Bristol City. 2 of their next 3 games being Hull City and West Brom certainly look difficult, and that Huddersfield Town at home game for Stoke is absolutely massive. The back-to-back away games at Swansea and Sheffield Wednesday will be interesting. If they can win one of those 2 away games, that would be a massive plus. And then Plymouth at home certainly will be a massive game as well, and I think it's a pretty tricky final 2 games there for Stoke City, but I do think 2 wins with a draw or 2 would also be enough to get them over the line. I don't think it's impossible to see Stoke City just getting over the line here. As for Plymouth Argyle, who are not in great form, their next game is away at Norwich City, who have been very good at home this season, and then it's Bristol City at home before Rotherham away and QPR at home, Leicester at home, Stoke City away, Millwall away and Hull City at home. Once again, just like I said with Stoke City, I think just 2 wins and a draw or 2 might just be enough to get Plymouth over the line this season. I think for Plymouth Argyle, the run of 3 games there where it's Bristol City at home, Rotherham away and QPR at home could make or break their season. That Stoke City away game, as we mentioned, 3 games from the end, is also a blockbuster. As for Blackburn Rovers, it's a home game against Ipswich Town before an away trip to the Stadium of Light. They then host Southampton, go away to Bristol City and Leeds, host Sheffield Wednesday and Coventry and end away at Leicester. For me, it does look like Blackburn Rovers have the hardest running out of any of the teams in the bottom 10 right now, with them facing Ipswich, Southampton, Leeds, Coventry and Leicester in their final 8 games. The Sheffield Wednesday at home game, the Bristol City away game and the Sunderland away game are also massive games there where Blackburn Rovers might fancy themselves of getting something. I think if Blackburn Rovers take the right approach and really go for wins, they will just get out of this. I think 2 wins on its own could just be enough here for Blackburn Rovers, maybe 1 draw on top, so I do think they could actually be afforded 4 or 5 defeats in this final 8 games, so long as they can at least win 2 of them. And the final team we'll mention for now then are Millwall, who host West Bromwich Albion before back-to-back away trips to Yorkshire with Rotherham and Huddersfield. It's then Leicester and Cardiff at home before an away game at Sunderland, a home game against Plymouth and an away game against Swansea. The next 4 games certainly look massive there for Millwall, with both of the home games being against top opposition and both of the away games being against Yorkshire sides in the bottom 3. But with Neil Harris, Millwall have shown a fighting sign, and I think 2 wins would be more than enough to keep them up right now. I think 1 win with a couple of draws could be just enough to get them over the line as well. So for Millwall, they're certainly not safe yet, but given how well Neil Harris has got them going, I think a few more points on the board and they might just get out of this. So then, that wraps up the fixtures for the 8 teams really in the thick of the battle, and we'll highlight them here of course. As we said, Sunderland, Watford, Bristol City and Swansea are certainly not mathematically safe yet, but I think they will have enough to get over the line. As I say, a few more points for each of them and they should just do it. Rotherham, yes, they're not mathematically down yet, but unless they win their next 4 games in a row, I'm not going to take their chances seriously. Even as we said though, if they did win their final 8 games in a row, I still don't think that'd be enough to save them. So the conclusion I'm going to come away from this video with is I think it will be 2 of those 8 teams there to go down to League One. And as I said, 48 points with a good enough goal difference should be enough. I think 49 will be enough and 50 would be more than enough. But as I say, it's opinions based, so do share yours down in the comments because we do value them as well. That wraps up today's video, guys. As I say, we will definitely revisit this as it looks like there will be plenty of twists and turns in the Championship relegation battle after the international break. If you've enjoyed this video, do make sure to drop it a like. It's free to like and it is also free to subscribe. Let's go for 1,000 likes and let's see if we can hit 60,000 subscribers, as it's free to subscribe and we're so close. Thank you for your great support, guys. We will see you in the next video. Peace out.